Reverend Jamal Bryant, who did not attend the meeting. All right, good to have both of you with us, and I'm glad you're both here in person because this is a really important topic. Now, Pastor Davis, you have made a decision to endorse Donald Trump, right?
Well, endorse in the sense of James Davis, not as the pastor, but as the individual, because there is a fine line legally that pastors cannot endorse political candidates with the title pastor in front of it. But as James Davis, the man, I stand in support of Donald Trump.
All right, so your community, your flock will hear you say
Yes,
this, right? So I
that's
understand
correct.
whatever the technical line may be.
Sure.
Why do you believe, though, that he is going to be good for the African American community? Well, we've just heard some of the things that he said, and he did, of course, retweet that what many believe to be
Well,
a very.
I think much of what's going on right now, I'll use even some of the words that the previous guest in a segment that I just saw use, that is schoolyard chatter. We're in a very serious time here in this country. Where our community is on fire, basically, and no one is talking about sending a fire truck. Basically, what's going on now is a bunch of rhetoric about sound blurbs and what the media is putting out with respect to painting a picture of Mr. Trump. And so in that case, those of us that have enough sense or are intelligent enough, we can get past some of these sound blips or retweets or whatever they are and hear the substance. That was the point of the meeting. The meeting was never about endorsing. We made history today. We put better than 100 black preachers in a room with a GOP candidate. That's never been done before.
Did he listen?
He absolutely listened to us. This wasn't the first time. This was our third meeting with him. And in previous times, we just didn't have the time to get into our issues. But as the more we got into the issues, we determined that it was necessary for us to come back again today.
So you don't think he's a racist?
I don't believe that. Again, I believe that his ego and his gravitas is so big that he doesn't have to pander to anyone. And I don't believe that I was being pandered to, or as some say that we are his token, so to speak, in order to go out and grab votes for him. That's not the case.
All right, so Reverend, let me ask you. You were invited to the meeting. You chose not to attend. You are here in New York today, but you chose not to attend.
Yes.
You just heard Pastor Davis say he doesn't feel he was being pandered to. He doesn't
Yes.
feel Donald Trump's a racist.
Yeah, I think that he's a pawn. I think it's regrettable. I'm here as a preacher and as a black man to say that I vehemently oppose the candidacy of somebody who has been outlandishly offensive to every minority group in the country, from the Latino community, African Americans, women, physically challenged, and all the more. Pastor James and Bishop Scott, who was the chair of this meeting, come from Cleveland. For a year, the Cleveland community has been in an outcry looking for justice for Tamir Rice. And Donald Trump hasn't spoken to any of that. We've not heard anything about mass incarceration, nothing about economic inequity, nothing about militarization of police. And the reality is, this meeting was pulled together because of a rally that took place in Alabama, where a protester from Black Lives Matter was roughed up, and Donald Trump said to the press that he believed he deserved to be roughed up. Now, to that end, if you will not meet with Black Lives Matter protesters, let me find 100 black preachers who are not civically and socially engaged, who will in fact find a connection to the Black Lives Matter protesters who are engaged with this conversation.
All right.
It is a very
If I could
disheartening.
So, yeah, let's have a
if I could
conversation
jump
here.
in right there, because we're talking about Black Lives Matter.
Yes.
And at the end of the day, that discussion doesn't need to be had on Fifth Avenue. That discussion needs to be had at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue, underneath our current administration. All these things that are going on right now in our communities is because of the people that are in charge right now, and not necessarily the ones that are coming down the pipeline. With respect to Black Lives Matter, with respect to our issues, all of these things were addressed in this meeting. And if Dr. Bryant would I can't cut off someone because of something they said. We're not going to always like what each person says. And so I'm not throwing away. And so even with Dr. Bryant, Dr. Bryant has gone so far to go out on Twitter and call the people that were in that room prostitutes. And I'm wondering.
You just called, let's just say, right here at this table, you just called.
Yes,
Yeah,
and
I think it's a
He
pawn.
called me a pawn.
And
But he's called him a prostitute
Yes.
and said that we're using our pulpits as poles.
Yes.
Okay.
All
And
right,
so
so
I'd like to give a redress.
I'm wondering
I'd like to give
if the
redress.
women in that room, the
Yes.
women, female pastors in that room,
Yes.
appreciate being called prostitutes, and I'm wondering if their husbands, in fact, agree with being called
And
prostitutes.
I want to apologize because prostitutes get money. and the 100 that went in there walked away with nothing. They did it for free. So there's another word for that, and I would not use that language on the family channel. What I would suggest is that you couldn't find 100 white pastors to do the endorsement, not 100 rabbis, not 100 imams. But you can find whenever it is that there's poverty, wherever there's poverty, you can always find
It was a miscommunication between the campaign
a capitalist
and then the
who will
pastors.
always exploit
Because-
poor
Okay.
people
So-
who are privileged just to be in the room. He's
The
glad.
first time- the
He's
first
glad to
time-
be in the
no,
room with no policy and no
yeah,
promise.
This from the guy that's a relevant
Yes.
town. Okay.
Yes.
And so in that regard, we're not there for relevance. The first couple of meetings were in private, but
Right.
then someone inadvertently put a flyer out, and then Dr. Bryant because that's what he does, he grabs the flyer and takes it out into Twitterverse. And so he even used the term that Donald Trump is the devil and we're meeting with
I
the
never
devil.
said that.
You said, of course,
No,
he probably
So
took the
let me-
tweet down.
this might be one-
But here's what I'm saying, that if he's the
It's
devil,
easy
I'm
to
wondering
attack
when did he
me.
become the devil?
So
Because
let me ask you, because I think
he
it
was
was
actually on his spin-off show, The Ultimate, whatever it was, with Omarosa. So I'm wondering, when you were cashing Donald Trump's check, was he the devil, or did he evolve to become the devil in 2015?
He's full of sound inferior. I'm talking about policy. What is the policy?
Exactly.
What is the policy that African Americans are marginalized, are manipulated, and not a part of the economic structure? What is the economic policy
This was the
that you go
purpose.
back to
This was
Cleveland
the
with?
purpose of the meeting.
Okay,
We
share
talked
with
about
us.
tax
You're
incentives.
giving the endorsement.
Okay, so-
As far
then
as
what did
3
you say
hours of the
specifically
meeting,
on
this?
probably 2 of the 3 hours
One policy.
were on economics. It was with respect to tax incentives to bring businesses into the inner city because poverty is our issue. Okay, and so if we deal with poverty at that level, as far as in inspiring entrepreneurship and getting businesses back going, right now under this administration, Black folks are worse off than we've ever been. 2009, we were at about 24%. With respect to the poverty level, now it's increased. Our wealth gap has increased 18,000 to 142,000 for whites. And so this is all under the current administration. And so anytime you go to listen to someone other than the normal Democrat rhetoric that we're fed, here comes the minions to chase after us to say, get back on the
Would you
plantation.
ever vote for anyone Republican?
I'm looking not on personality, but on principle. And while we're in the middle of
Right, but
transition, I am
My
open.
point is, would you ever vote for a Republican?
I would vote for who I thought had the best blueprint for Black America. And at this point, I do not believe, based off of what we have seen and what we have heard, and my dear colleague still has not pointed out one policy that talks about economic development, African
just
trade,
Well,
nothing deals with
He just
mass
specifically talked about
That is
bringing
the
businesses
policy.
back into the inner city.
And how do you do that?
Tax
So he-
incentives,
how do you
once
do
again.
that?
Okay, so did he talk about that specifically, tax
Absolutely.
incentives?
He talks
How?
about that so that if you reduce the taxes in the inner city,
Yes.
so that now you can draw a business or a corporation into that area, they have the incentive to put jobs in that area.
So that's what Donald Trump said he would do.
Yes, he said underneath this administration. And beyond that, there were other things that were talked about with respect to police and police brutality, and that how he would look at it through a different lens versus what's going on right now under our current administration with Barack Obama in the White House and with Black folks as the Attorney General. And so he's saying that all these things will be looked at. With respect to the Black Lives Matter guy, yes, if someone walks in my church or someone walks in Dr. Bryant's church and disrupts the place, he's going to be asked to leave. Now, he didn't endorse the guy. He didn't command his minions, so to speak, to beat him up. That was.
Are you okay with what Donald Trump said that guy deserved to be roughed
I'm
up?
not okay with that. That's ridiculous, of course.
Okay.
But I'm able to chew the meat, spit out the bones with anyone. That's just like I wouldn't throw Dr. Bryant away because he called us prostitutes. But he should be thrown away. Probably should have his ministerial credentials revoked, because I wouldn't call any of my brothers out of that
The
name.
word you were using, you didn't say it, I will say it, was rape. That was the word you were saying.
Well, I think again, what it is really very disheartening that these preachers walked away with private promises while we're in the middle of an open presidential election. The policies that were discussed behind closed doors need to, in fact, be open when he gets to Macon this evening to talk about what he wants to do for urban renewal and inner city development. It cannot just be behind closed doors. When that next debate comes, I would love to hear what we're going to do on the inequity of our public schools, on how it is that our African Americans, even with degrees, are at a lower pay
So was there
scale than
anything
Instead of
white.
before we
attacking
go
us, if
that
Dr.
you
Bryant would have
heard
signed
in
up
that
and came to the
room?
meeting, he
That
would have
would,
heard
right. So my point
these
is, why
things.
didn't
He
you
would
go
have
to the
heard
meeting
about
and make these
schools.
points?
He would have heard
Because-
about. He would have heard about the inequities. He
Okay.
would have heard about all of these things. Everything that he
Let me
said
give you a
was
chance
talked
to
about in
answer.
that room and will be echoed in the public
Mhm.
as time progresses.
Go ahead.
Because I honor and appreciate the young people who are on the front line in Chicago, Minneapolis, and the young people he doesn't know in Cleveland who are a part of the Black Lives Matter movement. And if he would say, as Governor Chris Christie has said, he would never meet with the young people of Black Lives Matter, the black preachers to go behind their back and go meet with them, I think is a slap in the face. And all the more, these are preachers who are not connected to the movement and have not been on the front line of what these young people are trying to accomplish. So I stood in allegiance with the young people who are in fact trying to effectuate change. If it's just about a conversation, then have a conversation with these young activists who are fighting night and day to
Right.
see America live up to what it's supposed to be.
Thank you both very much, and this is a conversation very much to be continued. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for
And out front next, breaking news: a white police officer charged in the shooting death